everyone. I'll be back in 1 second. I have to make a quick pit stop before we start. I'll be right back. I apologize. Okay. Khadija, I see you now. Let me make you a presenter in the presenter group. Uh-oh, what'd I do? Keeps jumping around on me. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're just missing George Chikeza. Hello, George Guzman. Guaman, sorry. Again, welcome to you guys who are here to watch our presentation. We will be starting right around 10 o'clock. We have two groups. It's a small class, only 8 students, but we have two groups who are going to be presenting today. I'll go over all that and explain it when we start at 10 o'clock. And thank you for coming to watch all the hard work this class really did. They've been an incredibly wonderful class. So probably my favorite class this semester. Okay. Just want to see if George might still be over in our classroom. I'll be right back. Good morning, Suzanne. George and Kaisha, you guys should be moving over to the other link at this point. Sorry, for those of you who can hear me from the other one, I should have muted that one. Oh, you're over there the other way. Okay. Sorry. Hey, I think I saw you over there. thank you again to all of you guys who are coming to visit. I appreciate it. You probably saw my mouth moving before. I forgot that I had muted my my mic. So thank you guys for coming. Khadija, I see you're back on. Let me make you a presenter. I know it's giving you some issues, the technology. And George, I apologize. I didn't realize. I didn't even put the 2 and 2 together. I should have known that. I know you, so I should have known that. Anybody in my class have any last questions or issues or anything before we still have 5 minutes? So go ahead, Britannia.
You said you converted the slides to PDF because there's a
No,
video in there.
no, I didn't. They're a PowerPoint.
Oh, okay, good. I just wanted to
Yeah,
make sure.
yeah. No, the PDF won't work very well in this. So I just left them or I converted them. I think from. Did you guys send it to me as a Google Slides or a PowerPoint? I don't even remember now. It was yesterday. That seems like a long time ago. So either way, I converted it to a PowerPoint. So that means it should work. You know what? While we have a few minutes, what slide is the video on?
Slide 4. Or slide 5. Slide 5.
Okay, scared me there. Damn. I can make it bigger, but why did it make it bigger? Uh-oh. All right, let me unshare and reshare and see what happens. Hold on. All right, slide 5, you said, right? Now, why did it make it bigger? I've never had to do this. Let's see. Oh, I see. I must have hit. Okay, that's the way it was. Our group is not hearing anything. I'm not sure why. Can my class hear me? Britannia,
Yeah.
I'm assuming you can hear me. Yeah, okay. Let's see. I'm not sure why they're not here. Okay, good, Suzanne. Thank you, Professor Young. All right, let's see. How do we get this video to work? Is this the same video that I gave you guys in class?
Yeah.
Britannia? All right. Then you know what I'm going to do? I'll share it with them. Let me open it up and then I'll share it with the class. When we get to that slide, I will share it with, unshare and then share and then go back to this just because I'm not quite sure why it's not working. Why
Okay.
it's not converting, but I do have it right here. There it is. Oops, we got a commercial. Sorry for the little musical interlude that we are listening to.
We can't hear it. Hi, Professor
Oh,
Wigutow.
hello. Okay, good. I'm glad you couldn't hear it. That's probably a
Hello.
good thing. How you doing, Professor McDonald?
I'm well. So I am sharing my screen. I just want to let everybody know who's in Professor Wigutow's class. So hi, Britannia, Esteban, Khadija, George, Haisha, Nayeli, Sarah, Sheila, all of my friends, all my upperclassmen friends. I'm sharing my screen and a bunch of my EN 121 students are watching you guys do your presentation this morning. So I told them, I said, this is a preview of an English class that you can take in a couple semesters. So they're doing EN 121 right now. So they're joined in with you guys right now. So, and some of them came into the room. Naya is here and Myra and Chris. So we have a couple of our students. So we're excited to see your presentation.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you. We'll start in just 1 minute. So if you can
No
start right on
problem.
time.
No problem. I just want to say hello.
Britannia, I have the video set up and ready to go. So when we get to that slide, since it's not working here, I'll just unshare this, share that, and then go back to the slide presentation. All right, guys, I have 10 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and start. Again, thank you, everyone, the entire audience that's coming to watch this. This is my honors section of EN 221, Literary Criticism and Analysis. Without question, my favorite class to teach. Really quickly, I became an English teacher because of my love of literature and looking forward to teaching literature. And of course, the two colleges I've worked at through most of my career don't have English as a major. So I don't get to teach it as much as I'd like to, although I love teaching the writing courses and those kinds of things. This is my favorite course. And this particular group of students, these 8 students, have been absolutely phenomenal all semester long. I'm looking really forward to the presentation as well, much like you guys are. What we did, and we titled it Navigating Our World Through Literature. And we looked at 2 pieces of literature that we read during the course of the semester. Our first group, Sheila Vargas, Britannia Gale, Khadijah Henderson, and Esteban Inga, looked at a poem by Maya Angelou called Still I Rise. And then once they're done, I'll upload the other, or I'll open up the other slide presentation, which is Sarah Calvo, Naelis Ben Cosme, and Kaisha Shaney did one of our short stories that we read, The Yellow Wallpaper, and just to analyze it and talk about that. So with not wasting any more time, I'll introduce the first group, and we'll go from there. Yeah, I'm hoping to teach film and literature, exactly. Another class I'm really looking forward to. So if anybody's eligible, please feel free. It's a June module class. Might as well follow through with the entire in the afternoon with the entire advertisement. Thank you, Professor McDonald. I would have forgotten that. So, all right, guys. Whenever you're ready, you may begin.
My name is Britannia, and like Professor Wigutow said, this is my group consisting of Sheila, Khadijah, and Esteban. Today we will be talking about navigating our world through literature. Specifically today we are talking about Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. And let's begin. So today we'll be discussing the background of Maya Angelou, Still I Rise by a reading by late Maya Angelou. We will be discussing the first and second themes of confidence and empowerment and the importance of literature within our world. So we will be discussing why Still I Rise is important to our world today. The background of Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou sadly passed away in 2014, but throughout her lifetime, she had done many things. She was not just a writer or editor or a playwright, but she was most importantly an activist and somebody who was for change. Most notably, she worked with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who helped with this movement and involved herself very well by using her writing as a tool for change. And she influenced a lot of people in her life. And Still I Rise is one of those many pieces that not only influenced people back then in the 60s, but also people today as well. Now, next we will be presenting a reading of Still I Rise by the late Maya Angelou.
Okay, we couldn't get the video to work here, so I'm just going to be switching over. Share audio. Okay. You ready, Britannia? Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone in the world has gone to bed one night or another with fear or pain or loss or disappointment. And yet each of us has awakened, arisen, somehow made our ablution, seen other human beings, and said, "Morning, how are you? Fine, thanks, and you?" It's amazing. Wherever that abides in the human being, there is the nobleness of the human spirit, despite it all. Black and white, Asian, Spanish, Native American, pretty, plain, thin, fat, vowed or celibate, we rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom just 'cause I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room? Just like suns and like moons, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just 'cause I laugh, as if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words. You can cut me with your lies. You can kill me with your hatefulness. But just like life, I'll rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh, does it come as a surprise that I dance as if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain, I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, naturally, there I go rising.
Before the next ad starts. All right, let me go back. Wrong thing. Sorry, guys, the other video started. She reads it again. Okay, you guys are back.
Okay, so hello guys, my name is Shayla Vargas, and the first theme I will be talking about is confidence. After reading Still I Rise, we concluded that it is a powerful poem that shows the self-confidence of the author. Notice that after every occasion she mentions in the poem, she uses Still I Rise, showing that she won't let anything stop her. She is demonstrating the fact that she will overcome any obstacle she goes through. Through the hateful society she lives and she will still do her and continue doing her.
Hi everyone, my name is Khadija and I'll be presenting on empowerment. Still I Rise also sends a message of empowerment to women. Because of the oppression that women suffered, especially Black women, this poem is an inspiration for those who are struggling with it. It inspires women to rise every time they fall. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. In the line above, it simply says that through all the lies and bullying, she will rise as light as the dust being carried away by wind, and she will not give up.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Esteban, and I will be concluding our presentation. So, Maya Angelou passed away at the age of 86, and her cause of death was never disclosed. Her poetry and many pieces helped to raise awareness and and empowerment during the civil rights movement. She inspired many African American women to embrace themselves and stand up against discriminations within society. So, importance of lit within our world. Literature is another form of communication. People have always used poetry and writings, such as the ones beautifully constructed by Maya Angelou, to express their emotions towards a specific subject. Without literature, there would be a lack of communication within our society, which may have led to misconceptions about values, morals, and cultural differences. Literature is just as important as other forms of communication, such as art, music, visual, and other non-visual versions of it. Thank you all for joining in on our presentation, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Great. I think we have some time, so if anyone has any comments or questions, I saw that Professor McDonald listed that says that according to her class, the reading by Maya Angelou herself brings the poem to life. It's one of the things we did throughout the course of the semester on YouTube. There's a lot of poets, especially from the 20th century, who read their own poems, and poetry was always is a form of art, literature that's meant to be heard as much as it is meant to be read. So I always think it's interesting to hear from the poet themselves, something I learned myself in my master's degree when one of my own teachers was a professional poet and would read his own poems with there. So I thought it was really interesting. I'll let my group answer that question. What do you guys think? Is poetry a form of music, or is music a form of poetry?
I think that poetry is a form of music in a way because, like music, it does contain words, it does have a rhythm, and it does, in some cases, rhyme. But although not all poetry can rhyme, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have to be a form of music. As long as words are being communicated and getting a message across, it does fall within, I do believe that it does fall within that category of being music.
Excellent. Good. I hear from a couple others. Kaisha, music is a form of poetry, and Sarah says it can go both ways. So I agree. Being a lover of music, as I've told my class, and some of I know Professor McDonald knows, I go to a lot of concerts. It's one of the biggest things I've missed during the pandemic, and I love music. And I definitely see it as a very similar, similar types of art as you go through similar types of literature. So, excellent. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for the group or for anything to do with the poem Still I Rise before we move on to our short story? Okay. All right. So let me then remove this, and we will now move over to our second group with Sarah, Naelis, and Kaisha. Who were interested in reading, in talking about the Yellow Wallpaper, which was one of the short stories we read towards the beginning of the semester by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. So you guys can take over whenever you're ready.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to say great job to the first group, and one of the main reasons that we picked the Yellow Wallpaper along with Still I Rise is because both of these pieces of literature are written by amazing authors that are women, and as you know, it's Women's History Month, so I think this is a great way to wrap up towards the end of Women's History Month to show the power of women. And the Yellow Wallpaper really represents this, as it shows women's resilience, their intelligence, their independence. They're also caretakers, their mothers, and their wives. So this is a short story written by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, as Professor said. It was published in 1892, and Nayelis will go over the summary of the story, but just to give a little background, in this time, mental illness was not very knowledgeable, and people did not know how to take care of it well during the time. So when the author writes in her journal for this short story, when she is being taken care of, she's not being taken care of in the proper way. So I will give the mic to Nayelis for some background information.
Good morning, everybody. Postpartum depression is suffered by a mother following childbirth. It occurs when the combination of hormonal changes, psychological changes, and fatigue. Postpartum psychosis is a rare but serious mental health illness that can affect someone soon after having a baby. The summary. Charlotte's story focuses on the idea that man controlled the life of women, taking away their voices for themselves and in society. The unnamed narrator may resemble that she feels as she has lost her identity, she is being oppressed, slowly leading her to become more insane. On top of this, the story focuses on confinement, not just by others, but by the human mind. These teaches the reader of the realities of mental illness, including postpartum depression and postpartum psychosis. The yellow wallpaper in the narrator's room within a psych ward becomes a deep fixation to the point that the narrator begins to hallucinate women trapped beneath it. So now I'm gonna pass it to Kaisha.
Good morning, everyone. So I will be taking over the characters. So in the story there were four main characters. So the first one is the narrator. The narrator is a patient and John's wife. She suffers from postpartum depression and psychosis. The second character is John. John was the doctor, and also he is the narrator's husband. He is the one taking care of the character who is the narrator. And the third one is Mary. Mary is the one who takes care of the baby, and she also takes the character's place by acting like the mother of the child. Finally, we have Jeannie. She is the housekeeper that takes away a woman's job. The main themes of this story is confinement as well as feminism. Confinement is the narrator is restricted by her environment, mental illness, and others around her. She is confined by the walls of the yellow wallpaper and the mental institution she is being held captive in. And finally, the other theme is feminism. The main character is being controlled by her husband, also her doctor. She is prohibited to work or do anything on her own to the point that she could not even write in her journal, take care of her baby, or even think. I will pass it down to Sarah.
Okay, thank you, Kaisha. So now we're going to move on to the symbolism of the yellow wallpaper. Thank you, Professor McDonald, for putting the short story in the chat. If anyone wants to read it, it's amazing. You'll read all the symbolism and more foreshadowing if you get into it, but unfortunately it was too long to present to you guys. So if you do read it, just look for these symbols. So the mansion, the narrator speaks about the room that she's living in as if it's this mansion, and she's like confused about the fact that her husband is controlling her. She doesn't really look at it that way. She looks at it as her husband is so kind and caring, and that her husband is her doctor, and he knows what's best for her. But really, it's showing like this sense of control, and she has this lack of being a caretaker and a mother and a housekeeper as women were known to do at that time. And so he would use something called the rest cure during that time, which basically meant that she couldn't do anything. He even asked her to not even think. So while she was in this mansion, it was the setting of this entire story. She could not even go to see her loved ones that she asked him to see, but instead she was held physically captive in a psych ward. The next symbol is the woman behind the yellow wallpaper. So since she is confined in this manner, by the end of the short story, she has this postpartum psychosis that we talked about. So if you don't know what psychosis is, think about it of like when people with schizophrenia, when they start hallucinating and having their schizophrenic episodes, that's what happens. So she basically starts seeing woman trapped behind the yellow wallpaper, which I believe is a symbol of herself being trapped. So she starts seeing all these different women trapped behind the yellow wallpaper that she's so fixated on because there's nothing else for her to do in that room but look at the yellow wallpaper. Then the next symbol is the doctor. The doctor is her husband, as we talked about, and he's controlling her and oppressing her. Then the unnamed narrator also symbolizes her lack of identity and loss of self, which then leads to the symbolism of her mental illness. This is also another symbol of confinement. She's not only confined by the psych ward and by what she's able to do, but also by her mental illness of postpartum psychosis and depression. Lastly, her journal is a symbol of freedom, expression, and her search for independence and identity. Even though her husband does not let her journal, she does sneak it, and that's basically what the short story is. Every time she's able to sneak and write in her journal, that's her describing her experience throughout the short story. So thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, you can turn on your mics and ask us. If not, I would really encourage you to read the short story.
Great, excellent job, guys. Both groups, fantastic job. And again, also thank you. I know the group thanked Professor McDonald for putting up the story. I didn't even think of that, so that's a good idea. And it made me think of it as well. For those of you who might want to be interested in reading the story, this was a very controversial story. As the group pointed out, it was written in the early 1890s. And it was a very controversial story at the time. There were actually people who thought that she was driving people crazy. People would read the story to drive it crazy. And in 1911, she wrote an article in a magazine, which I'm going to post the link for right here, which was, I don't know why it didn't come up as a hyperlink, but there's a PDF to it as well called Why I Wrote the Yellow Wallpaper, where she explains what she was trying to get from it, which also gives it. And a lot of the group here did a great job of pointing out some of the things that she talked about in here with the symbolism and those kinds of things. So great. Does anyone have any questions or comments as we wrap this up? And again, I thank all of you guys for coming. I just figured I'd open it up to see if anybody has any questions for either group at this point.
Does anyone see a connection between, and I mean, maybe this is a stretch, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I know the two groups seem to work independently of each other, but, after hearing the analyses of both stories, do you guys think that the two literary works that you picked, Still I Rise and the Yellow Wallpaper, are there any connections or commonalities between the two pieces?
Anybody?
I could understand where you're coming from with that question. I can also believe that there could be some form of connection between either stories, especially since they're centered around women and women's rights and the perception of women in general. But I do believe that they are mostly separate and independent.
Okay, I agree, Professor Young. Absolutely, women's struggles to be equal. Yeah, excellent. Any other questions or comments?
I will just say, great job. I mean, I know that it is the end of the semester, and You know, you guys clearly have learned a lot about symbolism and themes, and I want to congratulate you on a really good presentation to the students of EN 221. And I'm going to have Professor Wigutow share the recording with me at some point, you know, so that way I can keep a repository of all of our Honors Week presentations. And I know my class really enjoyed listening to your analysis of both Still I Rise and the Yellow Wallpaper. So thank you so much. But I'm going to go pop back into my class and dismiss them for the day. So yeah, so
No problem.
if
Thank
Myra,
you for
Nia,
coming.
Naya, and Chris, if you guys want to join me back in our room, I'm just going to do one more announcement before we head out for the day. But thank you guys. Good to see you.
Thank you for coming. And
Bye.
my class, if you guys would just hang on just for 1 minute, I just want to thank everybody else for coming really quickly. I'm really proud of my class. They've been unbelievable all semester, and this just continued that. So thank you again, guys, for coming. Everyone have a good day and be safe. Okay. My class, guys, you guys were awesome. Thank you. It's my students who make me look